This is going to have to be quick because, to be honest, I'm afraid of dropping my phone in the water. Anyway, here are the 5 problems I have with the whole concept and discussion around detransitioning. And before I say this, I hope that it's obvious after what I say that my intentions are good. I'm hoping to reduce the amount of suffering that happens. It should be obvious, but some people I think might not get it. Okay, so one of the biggest problems with detransitioning is essentially just that it's impossible to detransition. If you've had puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and surgeries, you can't go back to the way that you were. So detransition is a kind of a misnomer. It's just impossible to go back. And what seems to happen, I saw a girl who decided to be a guy and then change her mind and try to go back. And what she looks like now is a transgender guy. She's female, but she looks exactly like a transgender guy. And she's going to have to live with that for her entire life. Her fertility is gone, her breasts are gone. And she made a mistake. And she knows it. Number 2, I don't trust the 1 to 2% number because I don't trust anything that comes out of ideologically captured institutions, whether that's medicine or education. Number 3, because transgender people are under intense pressure from their newfound lifeline, which is what the transgender community would be for people with borderline personality disorder. This is what I'm really getting at. I think that a lot of people that are called transgender are actually suffering from borderline personality disorder, and mucking up with their biology and messing around with their identity in all kinds of ways isn't going to help them in the end. Number 4, because it's difficult to accept that you've made that kind of a mistake. Like, if you've made this mistake, would you admit it to yourself? Or would you have a really strong instinct to not just accept that you've made this tremendous mistake? That must be incredibly difficult. And it must be incredibly difficult too if you got a lot of encouragement from the educational system and from the medical system and perhaps even your parents to do this. And so it would just shatter your world. You've made a mistake, your parents have made a mistake, the education system made a mistake, the medical system made a mistake, and here you are. What kind of world do you think that you're living in that situation? What kind of insanity is this? And the truth of it is that between 15 and 80% of people with gender dysphoria or have borderline personality disorder. It's between 15 and 80%. And if you have borderline personality disorder, one of the essential things is that you have a really difficult time establishing any sort of a firm identity. Like, you don't know who you are. You don't know if you're a good guy or a bad guy. You don't know if, you wouldn't be taking that. If you're having trouble with your identity, you wouldn't be getting a lot from your family or your community or any of that kind of thing. And so along come the transgender activists and they say, okay, we know who you are. We know how to solve your problems. You're transgender. And go through the process and all of your problems will go away. So those are the 5 problems. I'm having a hard time accepting the narrative that's going around about this idea of detransitioning. I'm just going to go through them, just the problems that I have, just one at a time. Okay, the first problem that I have is that it's impossible to detransition after you've had the puberty blockers, after you've had the cross-sex hormones, after you've had the surgeries. You can't go back, right? So if that's your option, either go back, but really not really, right? Or stay the way you are. A lot of people would just decide to stay the way they are. What I've noticed recently is that a lot of need to make sure that I get this right. A lot of the girls that try to become boys and then detransition end up looking like transgender females. They still look like men, but they look like men that think that they're women. And they're going to live with that for the rest of their lives. They've got big jaws, a deep voice, that kind of thing. But they wear girls' clothes. They look like transgender females, and they're stuck with that. They'll never be different. Right? So the more important question is, would you go back if you could really go back? And if you ask that question, I think that the numbers would be a lot higher than the 1 to 2% figure that they tend to give. And I don't believe the 1 to 2% figure anyway, because I don't trust anything that comes out of the ideologically captured institutions in our society, not education or medicine. So I really don't believe anything they say. I wouldn't believe it at face value. Absolutely not. You'd have to be nuts. Number 3, because transgender people are under intense pressure from the transgender community, who doesn't want to consider the possibility that it's made a mistake. And the transgender community, for a lot of these people who have really a difficult time maintaining relationships with anybody, are really going to be afraid of losing what to them might feel like a lifeline. Anyway, it's difficult to accept that you've made a mistake of that magnitude, and that your parents maybe they've even encouraged it. You've got encouragement from the school system. You've got encouragement from the medical community. You've gotten encouragement from the people that you may have thought that you could trust online. So the whole thing has just been a mistake, right? That would be really difficult to digest that. And the fifth thing, I guess it is now, that a lot of transgender people have borderline personality disorder. Like, the overlap is just amazing. Difficulty controlling your emotions, insecure identity, a feeling of purposelessness and meaninglessness, which should be solved by joining the trans activist community. That's what they provide them with, a sense of belonging, purpose, and meaning. It would be very difficult to give up on that. And in case it isn't obvious, I'm saying this because I would rather that kids suffered less, or that people suffered less. I think that what's happening is that a lot of people are being diagnosed with gender dysphoria, when in fact they have borderline personality disorder. And I know that people are figuring this out. There's a Radio Canada show. It's called Trans Sexpress. I know that's weird. I'm just going to spell it out. TransExpress. The S serves a double purpose. It's the trans, right? And in that case, the S is a Z, and in the next one, it's Sexpress. The S has the pronunciation S, so it's doing double duty there. Trans Express, and it's focusing on this question of whether or not, a lot of them are in fact just suffering from borderline personality disorder. This is something that needs to be discussed. Okay, so essentially what happened is that all of those institutions failed to observe the symptoms mutual to both gender dysphoria and borderline personality disorder. That's what they did, and it was flat in their face all the time. Both, you have suicidal ideation and completed suicide, weak sense of identity, fear of abandonment, prone to addictive behaviors, have insecure relationships, prone sometimes to paranoia, delusions, both of which are short-lived, anxiety, depression, and autism. All of those things are common to both groups. So for the cause of it, the best explanation I've heard is this one. Invalidation produces invalids. Apparently there are only so many insults to the soul that anybody can take. Constant sarcasm, ridicule, humiliation, insult, neglect, and abuse eventually just ends up with a person totally incapable of trusting. No trust, no meaning,
No purpose, no love, no belonging. People shrivel under it and become invalids. Invalidation produces invalids. That's it.